And welcome back, everybody. Alright, as I'm an Imperial player, I like building Imperial fleets, so I have a lot of them saved. Today I'm going to take a look at a new one that I had to create very recently to kind of stand up against one of the potential, I don't know how you would say it other than just abuses of a Rebellion in the Rim card that one of my fellow players presented to me. One of the new objectives. So today I'm going to be building an Imperial fleet on Ryan Kingston's Armada Fleet Builder. Huge plug to this guy for this. This is amazing. If you haven't donated, please do. It's worth every penny that you spend. Like I said, I spend most of my free time just doing dream fleets. All right. So today I've nicknamed this fleet CalaMotti, but spelt in an unusual way, which will kind of give away why it's a calamity. So it's CalaMotti, and we're just gonna start throwing some ISDs in the mix. So we're gonna start off with an ISD Imperial 2. This is a fantastic. This is one of the strongest flavors of ISD. In fact, it's the strongest and most well-rounded. Simoons wish they could be as good as Imperial 2s. Simoons are scalpels. These things are broadswords and very good. Okay, so we're obviously just going to go straight out the gate and add Motti here. Motti, on the hull value of each ship, each friendly ship is increased according to its size class. 1 for small ship, 2 for medium ships, 3 for large ships. So it takes this 11 hull monster all the way up to 14, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's pretty ridiculous actually. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is add a officer. So the entire point of this fleet is actually just survive. It's to be kind of tanky and to survive some abuse that a Rebellion in the Rim card was potentially going to do. So we're going to throw Brunson on this. The Rebellion on the Rim card had you deploying on an obstacle. So Brunson is very useful if you're going to deploy on an obstacle. Let's see, then we're going to add the ISD standard gunnery teams, just in case we have 2 targets in our front arc that we want to shoot. We got to build in a little anti-squadron support, just because I build squadronless lists for fun and fancy. So, got to deal with it somehow. Next thing we're going to go ahead and add is a defensive retrofit here. We're going to add in electronic countermeasures. That way we can always use our brace. The only real counter to this is Intel Officer. And I guess Palpatine, the Admiral or Commander, becoming a 1-turn Intel Officer. But yes, this is definitely going to help you stay alive a lot longer. Okay, we're going to add in some leading shots here. And we're going to go ahead and add in XI7s. So it makes you a rather expensive 178 point boat, but you're going to stick around a very long time. The next thing we're going to do is actually just carbon this. So, bam, 2 of them. 2 ships that just like to stick around for a very long time. And the only difference here is we're going to add Strategic Advisor where there was Brunson, because we're going to need some activations. One of the ways that you stay alive is moving inconsequential ships, and instead of big important ships. Keeping out of close dice range of boats is a well-advised tactic. Okay, so now we got our 2 big boats. Let's do our 2 small boats. We're going to add ship. We're going to add a Gozanti here. And this Gozanti, we're going to add Darth Vader. Because there's no real rerolls present. Well, leading shots is present, but we're going to have the option to go ahead and there's Darth Vader. Do some rerolls through Darth Vader. I just like choking out officers. It's a good idea. And we're going to add CommsNet. And then we're just going to carbon this. And actually, that's the list. So at 382, you get to generally, with an 18-point bid, decide who goes first or second. So one of the first steps in defeating this Rebellion in the Rim card that I had a friend say is going to be abusive is to just say, well, we're not going to be using their objectives. So at 382, 18-point bid, you say, I'm second player, and you completely nullify the entire problem. So, that being said, let's take a look at what objectives I would suggest. So since this was purpose-built to take that on, I actually went outside of my standard station assault, and I went over to Most Wanted. Most Wanted is something this player did not want to see. Adding extra dice to shoot the entire point and purpose of his fleet. It definitely was not a pretty sight. So the next thing we're going to do is Fleet Ambush. And Fleet Ambush was also the same thing, was to just get that player in an awkward position, a position they didn't want to be in, and basically assault them from it. And then lastly, we're going to go with Dangerous Territory. Now, Dangerous Territory was kind of just the gimme. Let's open this back up. So there were, Solar Corona would have been a very good option, would have increased the longevity of my ISDs. But at the end of the day, I wanted something that would allow me to just fly around as however I wanted. The very real thing here is that I was flying, against an SSD, and that SSD can really just lay damage regardless of Solar Corona. It's throwing a lot of dice out of the front arc, and what I wanted to do was make sure that I run my ships at speed 3 or 2 or just fast and get outside of that front arc ASAP, and then not have to worry about anything else that's in my way. So Dangerous Territories was an obvious choice. On top of that, since it's an SSD, it's got that and 2 Gozantis. It's likely only going to send one of the Gozantis away to run away and try and capture victory points if it does it all. And if it uses the SSD to capture victory points, it's going to be stuck on those rocks for a very long time. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's Dangerous Territory to try and inflict a little bit of damage or gain a few points here. Now, what I'm looking at is 28 hull versus 22 and 2 Gozantis with 8 red dice, 8 blue dice versus 5 red, 4 blue. ECMs to always be able to use my brace. He's got 2 braces, so he will generally be able to brace for a very long time. I'm going to be using Captain Brunson to remove damage overall, and I have 5 activations to his 4 activations with an SSD and 2 Gozantis. XI7s will limit the amount of damage that he can redirect. So whatever zone I'm pouring my damage into, it stays in that zone, really. And then the quad laser turrets were only thrown in as a hedge against, actually to make this fleet more viable in other games. So at the end of the day, this was purpose-built, but I do believe that it could be, the one that you take to your next casual game and still do pretty darn well with. I mean, you do have 2 14-hull ISD-2s that always get their brace. You're going to be doing a lot of damage. After that, I don't think there's any more talk of tactics. I mean, you're just going to be comms netting over what Johnny-on-the-spot token you need that round. And then as far as commands for the SSD game, I actually ran navigates the entire time because the objective gives you a raid token for the first 3 rounds. I had assumed that he would make those navigates to kind of keep me in place, or to limit my mobility, because one of the biggest things with an ISD is lack of mobility or lack of maneuverability. It is highly mobile, not very maneuverable. But he surprised me by doing a navigate, an engineering, and a concentrate fire. I would suggest that for this you would actually run engineering most of the time. Other than that, that's the build. And guys, I want you to have fun and fly casual.